Welcome to Charts Today Energy. My name's David Linton, and today's edition for Monday, the 3rd of December, comes to you from London. And the whole energy mix rising on improved sentiment across the globe, with truce between China and the US on trade at the moment. So we are seeing crude oil up nearly 5%. So we're seeing some big moves there. Just looking at the sentiment, the dollar falling. It has been a safe haven of late, but it's falling away on that higher sentiment. Maybe just hitting some long-term resistance on the weekly cloud here on the lagging line, so that long-term level just having a play. Short-term, we're below the cloud, so we're bearish. On the point and figure chart, we do still have quite a lot of upside targets on the short term, so this downtrend may be short-lived. The medium-term uptrend still very much in place. Strong dollar. Euro is looking stronger on that weaker dollar, but still medium-term pretty bearish. And we normally get a heads up against the yen. The dollar is just holding on here against the Japanese yen. So it's too early to predict the demise of the dollar, but we are seeing sentiment uh, weighing on that positive sentiment, having a little bit of a negative impact on the dollar. We normally see safe havens as the yen and oil and gold and etc. Sterling is up on that stronger dollar, but we do still have downside targets here pointing to lower sterling, and against the euro, still struggling to make a lot of headway. Against the Swiss franc, we're seeing sterling actually looking a little bit better. Again, the Swissy normally a safe haven, not so safe today. Looking at the markets, we've got the Nasdaq future up 2.6%, and in the UK and Germany we're up over 2% this morning. So very strong surges there in pricing. Brent crude, as we mentioned, is much higher. We'll take a closer look at that in a moment. And then gold sitting at $12.30, up just under 1%, looking very strong, activating some quite big upside targets here as well. So all in all, most things are rising. Brent crude, as we mentioned, bouncing on the cloud here at the moment, so looking strong on that chart. We might have just found some support on the 1% point and figure chart as well. So it'll be interesting to see whether this is a bottom. Looking at the daily chart, we see here we are just starting to tick up on the RSI. That's the first reading through 30 we've had in several weeks. So starting to look pretty good. And looking at the correlation with the dollar, it's still negative on the daily chart, so we would expect a falling dollar would help crude. We were up more sharply this morning. We've given up some of that rise. That's been a feature with crude oil where we've seen that happen. And if we look at the 1 minute chart, we do have this massive upside target, and this is amazing for a 1 minute chart, generated to 68.80. That's nearly 11% higher. Looking at the 60 minute chart, we have 64.79, a more sensible target, and we're surging towards that now, so quite key. Looking at WTI, similar picture, bouncing on the lagging line on the weekly cloud. I know not many traders look at the weekly clouds, but sometimes these long-term levels become very critical, and so we are seeing this $50 mark is actually a very critical level for WTI. Again, if we go lower, we activate some very big targets. So hopefully we are seeing the bottom here. Again, the RSI giving a nice positive reading there. And looking at the 1 minute chart, we see here we've just jumped and we're holding onto those gains quite well. Better than Brent actually this morning. And the upside target here is a massive 13% higher if we can go and make a new high. So that'll be the thing to watch. US Natgas looking very strong, holding on to its $4.50 level. So it's really amazing that Natgas has just jumped and stayed here. We've now got targets to the upside and the downside. So if we break higher on the long-term chart, that gives us a massive push to $11. If we go lower, that gives us a move back down below $3. So it's all about which way we'll go. Of course, the key thing that will be is, can we break to higher levels? This is very much like an ascending triangle building here, and if we have that rise and then break again, you can expect a similar rise out of the pattern. That's the way it tends to work. Correlation with crude oil is negative and on the daily and 60-minute charts. That's because Brent has been underperforming and Natgas has been jumping. taking a look at the 1 minute chart for those trading Henry Hub, we do have some downside targets, 424, 412. So at the moment, it looks like we might give up some of that gain. Looking at heating oil, coming off much the same as crude of late, up 3.3% this morning, so not benefiting quite as much. Was stronger, just falling away again this morning, so just giving up the rise that it started with. Not quite managing to break through that RSI level, and just not quite as clear as WTI. We do have an upside target here, 198 and 197 on the 60-minute chart. So it will all be about whether crude oil can maintain its rise. Looking at RBOB, we see here a little bit of a mixed picture, upside and downside targets. We favour the upside. Basically, these targets have been activated, and again, we're rising. Looking to coal, coal is up over 1% this morning on API2. Remembering these prices are coming from Thomson Reuters Icon. If you're using Trayport, you will have slightly more liquidity on your screen, so you'll have slightly different targets as well. But 88.30, 88.80, 90.50 is not yet activated. We need a move to a higher level this morning to activate that, but it's short term. Looking bullish for coal. Remembering all these downside targets were given and met, we can't ignore these upside targets. And if we take a look at the 60-minute chart for coal as well, 89.48, 92.40, 94. So really is suggesting coal back into the 90s there. So that's looking pretty good. Emissions are up over 1% this morning as well. Short-term bullish on the chart, medium-term just struggling a little bit. And we are just seeing, having started well this morning, we're just giving up some of that gain. No clear targets on the 60-minute charts. We've got a massive one on the longer-term charts, 34 euros. So that's a long way from where we are now. But at the moment, no real clear charts to trade for, and you really need to just keep an eye on this 1 minute chart for the emergence of anything new. This target was given on Friday and met, and now we've got a downside target this morning that's being given and met. If you're trading emissions, the point and figure chart's absolutely critical. Keep an eye on those targets. NBP is up 2.6% this morning on front month, and we've got upside targets but not yet activated, so we need moves to a higher level. But we see here on Friday we were fairly flat. We've jumped this morning and we're giving up some of those gains now, so not looking as strong. And the same with TTF, actually. We're seeing a little bit of a pullback this morning. And again, the target's less clear on the 1 minute chart. On the 60-minute chart, we do still have targets 25.80, 26.50, so looking better there. NCG, we haven't had a tick in yet this morning, but much the same picture. But these downside targets just weighing a little bit on NCG. German power is up 1.3% this morning, and here the targets are more clear. We've got 54.72 and 54.01, and on the 1 minute chart, 54.30 and 54.80. So we are seeing stronger levels there. Looking at French power, we're up 2% here this morning. Good upside targets as well, and Nordic power, much the same picture. We're seeing a rise there too, so quite key. Polish power bucking the trend down slightly. That's it for today. Until tomorrow, happy charting. See you then.